and I'm the founder and principal of Blakely Consulting.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I am Cynthia Rojas, founder and principal of To Your Growth.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I'm Rebecca Tuttle, founder and principal of Grant Right Now and Grant Writing for Good.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Coffee Time with Masterminds, a 30-minute conversation with and for leaders of mission-based organizations. If you're joining us, welcome. Let us know where you're from in the chat by placing your name and your location. We get listeners from all around the world, including Australia. We mentioned last week that we are now being syndicated in a radio show in Australia. So hello to our listeners there. I am Cynthia Rojas, founder and principal of To Your Growth. And I am joined with my co-host, Peter Blakely, founder and principal of Blakely Consulting.
Good morning.
Hi,
Good
How
to see
are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. And as we mentioned last week, Rebecca's recovering and taking some time off, but a great shout out to her, and hopefully she's doing better every day. So, we've been talking about the great resignation. One of the consequences of the pandemic has been this movement that individuals are thinking about their work, they're thinking about their life purpose, and they're looking for a better way of bringing the two together: life purpose, work, and life. And for many individuals, that means working from home as well. But what does this mean for nonprofits? Nonprofits have always struggled with getting talent. They're not for-profit counterparts creates a competition that's been challenging for nonprofits. And so, here to talk to us about one nonprofit organization's quest to retain and hire great talent is Chanel Golson. Chanel, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you?
Morning.
I'm good. Thank you for joining us. And so Chanel is a HR human resources professional for a nonprofit organization that provides behavioral health services. She has over a decade of experience working in human service fields, and she specializes in recruitment, retention, workforce management, and community engagement. So if there's anybody we're going to talk to, it's going to be her. She has some great ideas on how to move this forward. But let's put some things into context. Peter,
There's so much to unpack here.
I know. Peter, we've been talking about this for a while. Do you want to put this into context and tell us why this is important to us?
You know, this issue brings together so many of the issues that we have talked about on this show. And even in your introduction, I heard, I'm kind of like, I want to respond to some things you're saying. Like, one, that there's this, is this true that the reason not-for-profits have a hard time hiring is because they don't pay well, or because for-profits pay better, right? Is that the kind of competition that we want to assume is going on? I feel like it lets not-for-profits off the hook for being truly great employers when we assume that kind of competition. But now I think everybody is saying in every industry, it's even harder to hire. And we're talking about, last week we talked about somebody who'd left her job to travel full-time. And she's a higher paid worker. She does the kind of work that can be done remotely. But I think one of the pieces there are three pieces of the conversation that we're missing. One is distinguishing between the people who can do their jobs remotely and the people who can't. There is an entire workforce that's facing a whole different set of issues because they do direct care, they do retail, they do jobs that they actually have to go to. And I think pay is a much bigger issue there. I think there's also this, this issue of danger pay. right? People have a certain tolerance for danger in their employment. There are some people who wanted to be race car drivers, right? And then there are other people who wanted to be school teachers. And these equations have changed, right? We cannot necessarily assume that people will do a job that now seems a whole lot more dangerous, for the pay that they used to do it, right? And under different circumstances. And then I think the third thing is, we have talked on this show about the idea of self-care versus structural care and how traumatizing some kinds of not-for-profit work can be anyway, even under the best circumstances. And I think now we're entering into an era where the entire country and a lot of the world has a lot of trauma. We are all living through this major traumatic episode. So what is the role of employers here? And to what extent do we continue to say, well, this is the responsibility of workers to keep themselves healthy and well and okay in the workforce? Oh.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a lot of really good points. Chanel, what are you seeing? So you've been in this for 10 years. So you are pre-pandemic in terms of this industry, the HR world. What are you seeing is different now as a result of the pandemic and the fact that it's just not ending anytime soon?
Well, a lot has really changed around recruitment and retention. The way we recruit talent and the way we retain talent has changed drastically. So we're using social media for our postings and to interact with talent. We're texting, whereas before, that was kind of taboo. So now texting is something that you see on a daily basis. That has become the new norm. We are relying heavily on like virtual interviewing and open houses, employee referrals. So the way we did it before has really, really changed. But social media is really, really big. It plays an important factor. If your presence is not strong on social media, it's really hard to recruit talent.
Huh. So this is interesting. You mentioned interacting with talent on social media.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that because I have not heard of that strategy. That's interesting.
Well, there's a feature now too on Facebook which allows employers to post jobs on Facebook. So a lot of small nonprofits use that as well as larger ones. And sometimes you get some good outcomes with that because it's a quick apply. You don't have to do too much to do it, but it still captures your information where an employee can call up, follow up with the applicant and invite them in for an interview. But you just post the position and they may have additional questions and you can talk them through the process that way because there's so many people who are on their social media and they see those positions and they're like, hey, I'm interested in this. And then you can they can just click apply and you can follow up with them. Or they may reach out to your site and say, hey, we're hiring. I would like to know more information about your benefits or the process. They can interact with you that way.
Cool.
So it's about like meeting people where they are,
Yes, that's right.
But I think employers, the job application process is always assumed that the applicants should come to the employers, right?
That has changed.
It's come to their place, talk their language. Yeah, and now you're saying and particularly during the pandemic, Facebook is where we have all been living for a year and a half. Like that is the real world now.
Yes.
Yeah. It's great to see that kind of accommodation, I think.
So
I think so too.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing that I think so too. You're meeting people where they are.
Yeah. I love this concept about employers going to individuals versus waiting. I mean, that's definitely changed on a lot of levels.
Yes.
Right? And so that's interesting. So Peter and I gave our opinion about what we think is causing this great resignation. What are you seeing? What are people looking for? Why are they leaving their jobs? And have you experienced a great resignation where you're working?
Oh, I definitely experienced a great resignation. So retention rate has decreased across the board. So not just in my organization, but in other organizations that I have partnerships with as well. Now, I think the change is because we really are reflecting on what we want to do in life. And right now, it's some of the things are more obtainable. So people are saying, hey, I have this passion and I have time. They may have additional time, or they're figuring out, hey, I can do this and now's the time to do it, because there's a lot of funding for small businesses that has been created. A lot of grant funding, a lot of support. People are just opening up their own businesses, and then there's a support that they have in that as well. So say if they have a friend that was laid off and they work in marketing, well, guess what? Now my friend can help me get my job up and running, and then that helps them as well. So we're seeing a lot of partnerships be created. So I help you, you help me, and so that's just really what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and let's not forget the real estate industry is we have a comment. So, Myra, hi Myra, how are you? I have mixed feelings because I believe there's a huge difference between a job and a career. When one has a career, they have a responsibility to fulfill their duty if that duty requires serving others, such as being a teacher. I have thousands of teachers who are leaving, and I'm finding that the ones who are leaving are the ones who choose teaching for the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
like summer vacation. I used to always wonder that. So I'm actually happy we're losing those teachers. We need teachers who want to be there. I have to tell you, Myra brings up another point, and Peter shared an article, and we can share it on this comment on our comments, where a gentleman by the name of Tim Wise wrote this great article about what he thinks is happening in terms of the great resignation. And he says that there's always going to be people who take advantage of benefit programs. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have them. It means that we have to pay attention to the fact that that is always going to happen. And that if people are not productive and they want to stay home, maybe they should stay home. Right. And so what Myra is highlighting is that the individuals, there are individuals who have a calling to their work, right? And they're going to make it happen despite. And then there are those who don't feel the calling, and it feels more like a job. And that probably those are the ones who are really struggling about coming back to the office. This, we are overgeneralizing it, but it's another lens to pay attention to, right?
Yeah, I do want to caution us about about an over reliance on the idea of calling in not-for-profit careers, because I do think it can become an excuse not to treat not-for-profit workers well.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes Rocky's cameo.
Now Rocky has to say hi. Hi. So sorry about that. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that sometimes we assume because it's a calling or because it's really important that not-for-profit workers are going to be willing to tolerate a lot, in terms of their workplace or their pay or their characteristics of their work. And so I just want to, caution us not to let ourselves off the hook as employers because people have a calling to do this work.
Yeah. Chanel, do you think it's as simple as just raising salaries in nonprofits, or do nonprofits need to be more creative to keep their talent?
Oh, definitely creative, because you can have a competitive wage and that not be it. You have to make sure that you're offering benefits that are comparable to people in your area or what your employees are looking for. Because you have one person that says, hey, I just want something as simple as a schedule change. Can you accommodate that? Or even hybrid schedules. We're seeing that a lot. So where we were so rigid before in the office, these are our hours. If you can't do it, you don't have a job. Now you're seeing, hey, you're remote 2 days a week, or some positions have moved to totally remote work, and you're seeing some be hybrid, and it's become the norm. It's not just a temporary change because of COVID. This is what we're offering now, and that's actually the driving force where we're actually getting a lot of new talent coming in. So you have to be flexible and not rigid. Whereas before we can say, this is what we have on the table, take it or leave it.
Yeah. No, I remember those days. I
Yeah.
remember those days. I used to be, I will admit it, an employer that felt that you needed to be in the office, that we needed that interaction, that we needed to work with each other. And the truth is, we could do that virtually.
Hmm.
We can. We can. So, and then, one of the things that I often wonder about is what can nonprofits do generally to recruit their talent? So you talked about social media,
Yes.
you talk about reaching out to folks, but you have some really innovative things that you're doing for
Hmm.
your nonprofit because are you hiring like an additional 100 people or something?
Well, we're hiring a lot. It's not right at 100, but
Okay.
it feels like 100 positions. We're
Ah!
hiring. Trust me, it feels like 100. But we are hiring for multiple positions, and so we have a lot of vacancies, and you're seeing that within a lot of organizations. If you go to their site, you look under employment opportunities, you'll see there's tons of positions available. So in the midst of this pandemic, our organizations are still growing, so we still need to meet that need to recruit talent. So you have to be very innovative and think out of the box. So I did mention social media before. Social media is a very, very big tool, but what I personally like to do is use my community connections for leverage. So I go to community meetings. There's management team meetings within New Haven that I attend. There may be organizations that you reach out to and you say, hey, these are our postings. We're looking for talent. Is there any way you can help us afford this information? Maybe you're going to health fairs that are in the community. You're seeing these pop up health fairs almost once a week. So maybe if you're there saying we have these openings, we offer health insurance. You're just selling your organization within the community. So I think partnerships with the community is really, really big. So that's what I do personally. I rely on that.
So you're really reaching out to everyone, building relationships.
Yes. Mhm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Are you finding this great resignation on all levels of employees or just frontline workers or leaders also doing a great resignation? What do you see?
Yes, yes, leaders. So Myra mentioned teachers as well. So we're seeing all across the board, all different positions, people are leaving, and it's for various reasons. So it's not just wages, it's not just working from home, it's not their passion or calling. It's just different reasons, and the pandemic kind of helped some people figure out what they wanted to do or better avenues to do it. So there's various reasons. So I kind of don't really like to attribute the Great Resignation to one factor because it's multifaceted. It has so many parts. Yeah, we're seeing all across the board.
That is Rebecca posted. Rebecca's in the background producing our show. Hi, Rebecca. And she posed a question: what has virtual work taught you about the workplace and industry? And Myra replied, it taught me I no longer need paper.
Finally, I remember 10 years ago when I told people I was going paper free, and they thought that was so, weird and eccentric. And
Yes.
finally, we're all paper free. Yeah.
I have tried different things, and I am very close to being paper free. I've just gone blurry, and I'm not really sure why. So
It'll come back.
I apologize. Yeah, I just have to stop moving.
So Chanel,
So
who is
go ahead.
applying for your jobs?
What was that?
Who's applying for your jobs? Are they people who are, a lot of them leaving other organizations and coming to your organization? Are they people who are changing fields? Is it a whole mix?
It's a mix, but it is a mix of people. So I can't say that we're seeing one kind of trend.
Yeah.
We're just seeing just all different reasons. People are leaving to be closer to home. People are applying here because the type of services that we provide aligns with what they want to do as a career. So we're seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the idea of it's happening at all levels is
Mhm.
really important to highlight and lift, because there's this perception. So a lot of this conversation is happening within the hospitality industry and how nobody wants to work. And Tim Wise, the gentleman who wrote this article, was really interesting. He said, first of all, let's not forget we are still in the middle of a pandemic, right? That has not
Mhm.
ended. Second of all, because it's gone so long, we probably all know somebody that has been impacted, or we know somebody who has passed. This is very different from the very beginning,
Mhm.
where it was still something you heard happen to other people, right? Where now it's come closer to home. And that there is really, that there's also this fear of one's health, and that we have a right to care for our health and the health of our families.
Mhm.
So that's another thing that's not getting talked about. And so I
Mhm.
wonder if any of you had any comments to that end.
I do. It's important that you stress this all across the board. Like when you're recruiting, even with your current employees, that we're trying to keep them safe. We're doing everything possible to keep them safe, and safety is our priority. So sometimes there are things that you might want to put in place that are a requirement. So say if the governor puts out a mandate, why should we wait on a mandate to keep our employees safe? So just making sure that you're doing everything you need to ensure that they're safe. And when they feel safe, they're more apt to come to work and feel comfortable coming to work.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I can't fix that blurriness. It's driving me nuts. I just moved my home office to a co-working space. And it's been really interesting for me because I now have to think about safety protocols. And
Mhm.
I am so grateful at how everybody wears a mask here, right? There's no one's debating, no one's yelling at someone for wearing a mask. Like, we all respect those protocols, making sure that we wash our dishes and don't just leave them in the sink for somebody else to have to touch. We wipe everything down. I see somebody walking around all day just spraying. And
Mhm.
so I really have come to appreciate, for the past year and a half I've been at home, I've not had to think about those things. Right. So I feel very safe here, which is another thing I hear you lifting, Chanel.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Nice.
I think another element to the Great Resignation is how much additional stress it is causing for workers. Their coworkers are resigning, um, their supervisors are resigning, and that's leaving a lot of workers feeling like they're overworked, or they're lacking guidance, or they're lacking support, and it's just compounding, right? It makes them less happy and feel less supported in their work. Chanel, is there anything that organizations can do about that?
Creating kind of open forums so that employees can be heard. Okay, we understand that there are additional stressors right now. So you want to provide them, say, for example, we'll have a weekly listening session where employees can come, and it may be someone in management or maybe like another employee hosting it so that they feel comfortable and not really upper management, because
Mhm.
sometimes people won't speak freely if there's someone in senior management present. So you will want to have someone that the staff feel comfortable where they can talk, they can bring up their issues and concerns, and that information gets disseminated higher up so that we can actually address it. If people are saying, hey, I feel like we don't have enough employees right now. Well, we're going to communicate that we're working and we're trying to get those employees in place. What can we do in the meantime? So it's basically, you really have to listen to provide a space for your employees to voice their concerns and to actually follow up with them and communicate with them that you're trying to meet those needs, because you may not be able to meet those needs right then and there, but allowing them to be aware that you're trying to fix the problem or the issue that they're having helps a lot because they feel heard.
Mhm.
I think, oh, so Myra's commenting, yes, the level of respect for one's and your coworkers' safety has been impressive in my office, and I'm glad because I'm back in the office. Oh, Myra, welcome back to the office. So, and thank you for that, Myra. Thank you for lifting the perspective that you're coming from. I think this is a good point, Peter. This idea of let's not dump the extra work on those who stay
So,
behind, right? And it's like in the restaurant industry, don't yell at the waiter
Mhm.
or waitress that decided to come to work. It is not their issue. The waits are longer, right? Do
Yes.
not go to a restaurant if you're starving, right? Go if you're hungry, but don't go if you're starving, because then you're gonna be hungry. And that person chose to be there. Like this is a time where I stop and I reflect. This person chose to come to work,
right.
right? Where all the people who did or did not, they decided to come. I think about the cashier that I see in the supermarket. I think about the receptionist that I see in the doctor's office, right? And so I have found that I'm growing more compassion, greater compassion for the people who do show up. And we should remember that because there are also articles about how these individuals are getting abused even more because we're angry that we're not getting served the way we used to. And we should think about that and unpack that. Maybe in another show, because that's another 30 minutes.
Well, I mean, the people who are, receiving services, right, in a restaurant or in a not for profit, are themselves living through a traumatic period in history.
Right,
So they're not just normal irritated and upset.
right, right. Yes.
And then that just makes the job that much harder for everyone.
Yeah. So we're coming to an end, and Chanel, I wanted to ask you, so this show is for nonprofit leaders, right? And
Mhm.
leaders is not just the executive directors, but all the leaders that are leading the work in their nonprofit organizations. But tell me, what advice do you have for leaders, other HR professionals, nonprofits in general who are really struggling with retaining and recruiting talent?
Some advice that I would like to give is one, be flexible. And two, you have to adapt because this isn't going anywhere. This is a new norm for us. So we have to look at our current processes and see how we can change those to meet the current market that we're seeing. And then finally, I want to say, because Cynthia, you talked about compassion. Let's be compassionate to everyone we come across because it's really a really tough time. So we're going through a tough time, and everyone else is as well. So show compassion in all that we do.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
that. Peter, next week is it next week or in 2 weeks we're having a labor economist come on the
Yes,
show.
yes,
Talk
that
about
is
it
next week.
from
Yeah,
that
yeah.
lens.
Next week, we will have a labor economist on the show, and we will be talking about the big picture and what we're seeing nationwide.
Yeah, and so last week I announced that I was looking for Lori Fox, who wrote an article about why she left the workforce, and now we're looking for Tim Wise. And if anybody knows Tim Wise, we would love to have him on the show because he I think offers a ton of perspectives and helps
Yeah.
us see it from a couple of different lenses. And this is not about blame, but it really is, in the um in the world where individuals are looking for work, they've had to adapt, right? Resumes today look very different from resumes 10 years ago. Interviewing techniques have also changed. There are all these books about this, right? Well, now it's on the nonprofit, now it's on the for profit company. Now, organizations in general have to adapt. So let's get to work. Let's do it with compassion, and we'll get through this. I promise. We'll get through this. All right. This is a great show, Chanel. I can't thank you enough for joining
Thank
us
you.
and helping to give our nonprofit leaders insight. into what's happening. And Australia, we say goodbye. We'll see you all next week. Peter, thank you. Any
Thank
last
you.
words?
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee Time with Masterminds. My name is Peter Blakely, and I'm the founder and principal of Blakely Consulting.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I am Cynthia Rojas, founder and principal of To Your Growth.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I'm Rebecca Tuttle, founder and principal of Grant Right Now and Grant Writing for Good.